Hi again, everyone. So, welcome back to my channel. I am Caspian and I read a lot of books, apparently. I started my reading journey again in around April, May 2024. So, I don't have a lot of, I won't be making like videos about like wrap-ups of 2024 that much because I didn't record like the first quarter of the year in the way I didn't put it anywhere, what I read and how I read what I read. I have like a vague memory of what I read during that period, but I didn't put it anywhere. So I have my reading journal here. This is all 2024, you guys, okay? And this is what I have for 2025 to keep putting stuff in writing. So what I was doing now is that I was going through my goals for 2025 and doing my cover page and that sort of thing. And then when I opened it, I had like my end of year kind of stats for 2024 on one page, and I found this list that I made a while back. Well, like the first week of January. It's now when I record this. It's Sunday the 12th of January. So I made it like a couple of weeks ago, 10 days ago. I made a list about books that live in my head rent-free because I was going through my books, my reading journal for 2024, and looking at how many 5-star reads I had, etc. And I had like 30 5-star reads. I had 12 4.5-star reads, 13 4 stars, 8 3.5 stars, 6 3 stars, 1 2.5 stars, no 2 stars, 1 1.5 stars, and 1 star. And then I DNF'd 8 books and I paused 7 books. So I couldn't really make a list of like the best books of 2024. I could, maybe I will, because I did do one of those like brackets, like um yeah, I made like the best book in May, in June, in July, etc. But it's hard when like some months I had a lot of good books and then maybe one month I only had one book and that wins that month because it was the only one. But I did have like a winner and I will talk in another video about that, about like the bracket system and the winner of 2024 for me. But in this video, I want to talk about the honorary mentioning. Some of these books are on my list for the best of 2024 as well, but some of these didn't actually get that many stars. I'm not going to talk about how many stars I gave them, but I know that some of them didn't get that many stars, but they have been living in my head rent-free since then. So and that's kind of interesting that some of the books I read, even though they weren't good at the time or like the best read I've ever had at the time, they kind of sparked something in me. Or maybe, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the books and I'm not going to say what they are about. I'm not going to say like the plot or anything. If I remember the genre of them, I will say that. But then mostly I'm going to just let you know why this is living in my head rent free. Okay, so. And these are in the order of when I read them. So the first one I read first during 2024. So I'm going to start around May and then work my way up to December. That's kind of because that's how I wrote them down when looking through my reading journal. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you. What do you mean? Oh no, okay. So I'm going to try again. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna have to share them one by one. So the first 2 books are are the books in this. So this is the Crowns of Nyaxia duology, right? This is the first book, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And then the second book is this one, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. So these books are by Carissa Broadbent. It's the Crowns of Nyaxia duology, as I said. It's like in the Nyaxia universe, so there are more books. I have read one more book after this one, a novella. So, and I have one to read soon. So these books, I thought I had given them 5 stars. I was so sure because they are living in my head rent-free. And I don't own them. I read them from the library and I have them on my list. I call it needs because I want them. That's my list. And I have had those 2 on the list since I read them in like May and June. And I was so sure I gave these 5 stars, but I didn't. When I looked back, I actually had some concerns with them, or like not concerns, but I had some things that I wasn't that fond of. So I gave them like 3.5 and a 4 star or something like that, which was really surprising because now they are my top picks. Like because they're living in my head rent free because they made me love vampire books. I never quite did. I never quite did. I actually found, for a long, long time in my life, I found the concept of vampires quite ridiculous. And I think it was because when the hype, I was like, I don't know how old I was, but I was around when Twilight was coming out, like the movies came out, and the hype was so over the top. And I remember watching the first movie. I was like, this is so ridiculous. I think there are vampires in that one. Yeah, there is. So I never really, got hooked on the bandwagon of the Twilight series. And after that, I have read like 1 or 2 vampire books that I actually enjoyed. I really didn't find it very amusing. The concept of vampires for a long time. And then I read the Crowns of Nyaxia duology, and I was like, I was just mesmerized. And I just can't wait to get into that universe again. I think I have left the 4th book, The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, or something like that. I think I left it on my shelf since I got it. I got it when it came out here in Sweden during the fall. But I think I waited because that's when I've read that one, it's the last one. I don't have any more to read, and I don't own the other ones, so I can't reread them. So these are living in my head rent free because they gave me my love for vampire books. I'm just so happy about that. So the next one on my list is this book. Please let me let this be. Where is it? Oh no, wait. I just remember I have it. I have it here. I actually bought it. So this is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. And this was just so much fun. This was just so much fun. I remember I think I read this. This was the first book in a long time I read like in just a few days. And I enjoyed it so much. And it's not that any of the story lives in my head rent free, but I can find myself all of a sudden just thinking about her little tea shop and some of the jokes, or just the amusing parts just pop up and I giggle to myself. And ever since I read this, I have looked forward to the second book, and I had to buy this when I read it because I was like, I just need it. I need to reread this over and over and over and over again. And that's not common with like mystery novels for me. because when you've read the mystery, you solve the mystery and that's over, kind of thing. But I really enjoyed this, and I also wanted to own it because I wanted to be able to blend it to people and let them read it as well. And so this is, yeah, I can just find myself thinking about this little woman and her shenanigans and just giggle to myself. And I'm really looking forward to the next one. I think it kind of, I had it like up here, like this was simmering up here in my head for a long time. And then I tried another book by the same author and I hated it. I DNF'd that. I DNF'd Dial A for Auntie. And it kind of made me not look forward to the second book in this Wood Vera Wong as much, but it's still one of my favorites. So this, yeah, I keep thinking about this again and again. So yeah, I'm happy about that. And then the next book is one that I also had to buy. Did I? Yeah, no, I owned this before, maybe. I think I bought this at a secondhand store. Maybe I did do that. So I read this one. This is called, let's see what the original title is. The Lighthouse Bookshop. Yeah, it's The Lighthouse Bookshop by Sharon Gosling. This is like we call them feel good in Sweden. It's got a romance in it. And it's basically this woman that owns a lighthouse bookshop. There's a lighthouse and there's a bookshop in it, and it's just adorable. And this is one of those books I just want to live in. I just want to be there. I want to own that bookshop. I want to, or just be a part of the community, that they have. And this is a good book for me to reread because I remember why I love it, but I don't necessarily remember all the details. You see, I annotated it a bit. You see the tabs there. And I love that the details kind of disappear on me over time, but I remember I love it and I remember the feeling of it, like the atmosphere. And I look forward to just immersing myself in the atmosphere again. So really enjoyed this one. So The Lighthouse Bookshop by Sharon Gosling. And I actually borrowed her second book at the library shortly after and enjoyed that as well, but not quite as much because it didn't have a lighthouse bookshop in it. And then the next one on my list is these books. Okay, so this is the Thursday Murder Club, but this is the Swedish cover because I read them in Swedish. So the Thursday Murder Club, and these are 4 books so far, at least in Swedish, and I read them all like quite. As soon as I had finished the first one, I borrowed the second one, and then I put myself on a queue for the third one, and then the fourth one, and I read them like in a span of 2 months. And these are so cute, and I look forward to reading the next one. I don't necessarily know if I would enjoy these books that I have already read. If I read them again, I don't, because it's murder mysteries. But I once again I love the atmosphere and I love the relationships. I loved there was like a point of view that was kind of a diary of one of the women in this group in this retirement home, and I just loved how the book was written. The books were written, and I look forward to the next one in the series. And so, these are books that I constantly think about. Like these pop up at the weirdest moments, and I find myself telling people like, have you read these books yet? Have you tried the Thursday Murder Club? It's so amazing, it's so wonderful, it's so funny, it's so this, it's so that. And I even bought the first one at a secondhand store for a thrift shop for my dad for Christmas. So because he also likes murder mysteries, and I bought it at a secondhand store because I wasn't sure if it was gonna be the love of his life, and I didn't want him to feel like he couldn't get rid of it if he didn't enjoy it. So, and I feel like when I receive books that are new, there's kind of this, I'm like, oh, this is new, I need to hold on to this. This is a gift. But if it's from a secondhand store, it's a bit more okay to let it go to the next person afterwards. So yeah, enjoyed that immensely. The next one on the list is a book that I really, really, yeah, I think you're gonna notice that it's mostly about the vibes for me. So this is Floating Hotel by Grace Curtis. This is a sci-fi. I think it's called, I don't know what the particular like subcategory is. Is it space opera? Maybe? I don't know. So this is a very wonderful book, and I just, from the first page I opened it, I wanted to live on the Albiona Hotel. So it's a floating hotel in space, and you get to know all the characters in the floating hotel. I'm so sad that it's a standalone, and the ending really makes you understand that there are no more books. I know that she has written another book that I want to read. I'm not that into space cowboy books, and I'm not sure if the second one was one of those. But this one I really want to own. I want to reread it over and over and over again because I just want to live on the Abiona Hotel. It was almost like there was like a plot. There was like a plot and a subplot. But I really enjoyed the relationships, the atmosphere, and it just I think it very much reminded me of something that felt very like in my childhood. My childhood wasn't very safe. Um, so there were moments when I really felt safe and I felt I could immerse myself in something, and that was when my dad and me watched Star Trek. And the Albiona Hotel kind of reminds me of the feeling of watching Star Trek when I was a young child, and wanting to just be one of them and roam the halls of the spaceship and just live there. So I'm not saying it's the best well written in the world. I'm not saying it's the or most well written in the world, and I'm not saying that the plot is wonderful, because I know there are people that really hates this book. They're like, "What the f is this?" And I kind of understand where they're coming from, but for me, I was sucked in and I was living there, you know. Uh, and I did also enjoy the LGBTQ rep in it. So yeah, I can't get over how much I love that book. So all of these, if I don't own them, they are on my uh needs because I want them list, which is very big. So the next one is a series, and it's the Bridgerton. And this is a Swedish cover of, I don't know if it's the first book or the second book, but it's gonna be symbolic for all of this. So the Bridgertons, I have read 4 out of 8 books so far, and I haven't watched the Netflix series. I think my goal is to read all of the 8 books before the Netflix series disappears, so that because I wanted to read the books before I watch the series. And these books, I think I love the era they are written in, like the historic era. These are historical romances, and in each book it focuses on one of the children of the Bridgerton family. There are 8 children, and kind of how they meet the love of their life, and so forth. And I know there are like there's some troubling things, and you can't really write a book from that era if you don't mix in a bit of like the view of the women in that era, like this is what a man should do and this is what a woman should do, and there are fixed gender roles. But I think the Bridgerton series does a very well job at making each individual an individual, and making and showing their strengths and their desires and their wants and needs, and they don't even they're like they are living in that era, but you don't feel well, you feel, because you feel with them everything that they feel. And how do I say this in a good way? It's like it's just a good representation of people without putting them necessarily in these small boxes. And if they are in these boxes, they are very aware of them, and they don't. I think there are conversations like women can't do this or this, but we don't let that stop us from doing this and this. And I kind of like that. So it's not enough for me to not like the series, because I just recently like talked a lot of shit about like Agatha Christie books because of the view of women in those books, especially Hercule Poirot books. And it's and those are even like set later than the Bridgerton series, but the view of the women are so there's such a different from the author's perspective, and how they chose to write that story and to incorporate that into the books. And I think Bridgerton is a good representation of that, and I really enjoy these kinds of books. These are like cozy. I can just snuggle up with them. And I am currently annotating each and every one that I'm reading. So, and I have noticed that I like to annotate like one book a month. I don't really like annotating a lot. While sometimes, a lot of the time, I just want to read. So, the books that I have from the library, I just tab them where I have quotes I want to save and write in my journal. And then with books I own, or books I feel like this book is one I want to annotate. And that's kind of how I felt with the Very Wong. I want to annotate that next time. So when I feel I want to annotate a book, that's on my needs because I want them list. And I had an opportunity like early in the fall to buy all of the Bridgerton books quite cheap. So I did that, but it is going to take me time to get through them all. But I really enjoy them. I look forward to picking them up. So the next two books are also a duology or a series. You see, I don't know if you can see my tabs. There are more tabs in Bookshops and Bone Dust than there are in Legends and Lattes. But oh my god. These are so I have really, I think these two gave me my love for cozy fantasy. They opened me up to cozy fantasy. Legends and Lattes I read first, and then a few months later I read Bookshops and Bone Dust, and I just love them. They are truly living in my head rent free. These are books that my mind goes to when I want a happy place. So when I want a happy place, I go to either the buns and coffee place in this book, or the little bookshop in this book. And I just love books with like a bakery and or a bookshop, and like the community around that. Just amazing, wonderful people living their lives, a lot of character development. And then like a plot on the side that gets your adrenaline going. That's what these do for me. I really enjoy these, and I think there's a third coming. Am I wrong? am I just hoping, or is there a third coming? I need to look that up more. Because if a third is coming, and if it's coming this year, it's definitely one of my most anticipated. Okay. Oh, I love going through this list. Like, it makes me wanna, yeah, it just makes me feel all the feels that I felt reading these books. This was a wonderful idea. Okay, so the next book is also a few books again, and this one, the Scholarman series by Naomi Novik. And I don't even think so. It's three books. The first one in the back, Deadly Education, and then The Last Graduate, and then The Golden Enclaves. And these books are set at a school, like a magic school. So and we follow Elle, or Eladriel, I think that's her name. And we follow her, and I kind of hated her in the first book. I really did. I kind of hated her. In the first, like, 100 pages in the first book, I was like, I'm not gonna make this. This is gonna this isn't gonna work for me, you know. And then things started happening, and I really found myself enjoying the magic system. It's a very intricate, well written magic system, and I really, really enjoyed that. And I know there are only three books. And even though, like, the books are, everything is solved, I have read them all, it's solved. I can actually I find myself going back to them and just remembering them and reliving them in my head over and over. I have even dreamt them, you know. I have even dreamt them. And I just want to say one thing. If an author can describe a universe so good that I can live inside it in my dreams, I can see the school around me, I can meet the people, and you know, if it's so well written that I can really, yeah, immerse myself in that way, then the series as a whole is a 5-star series for me, and then each of the individual books are somewhere along, like, from the 4 to a 5-star. And I want these books. I need these books, right? So these are living rent free in my mind, definitely. And then the next one is a mystery. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. So by Theodora Goss. So this is actually the first book in a series where I think the books are standalone. I don't really know. So in this book, all of the characters meet, and it's the origin story of the found family, and the found family are these characters from other books, like the daughter of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the daughter of Frankenstein, and so forth. There are so many, and I think the reason this book is living rent free in my mind, because there's like a mystery to it as well when they are coming together. So the reason this book is living in my head rent free, there are two main reasons, I think. The first one is I just found it so funny, or fun, not funny, not like haha, but I found it to be so much fun. I really enjoyed reading it, and Sherlock Holmes was in it, and I just find myself going back to different parts of when they meet up and how they solve problems together, and how this group dynamic works when they add people. My mind kind of goes back to that, and I think I'm still figuring it out, and it's wonderful that I'm still working on that in my head. And the second reason is like a continuation of that, because I want to know more. I know there are more books, and I just want them so bad. And I think I wanna annotate these books. I wanna annotate them from the first book to the last book and just follow it all through. And I don't think, knock on wood, I don't think these books can disappoint me. Maybe I will have to eat my own hat. I don't know if that's a Swedish thing only, but maybe I would have to eat my own hat after saying that, like eat my words. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the other books in the series. They are not available at my library. This one was. So I'm waiting for those to become available. They are like under purchase, I think. So yeah. So I have 4 books left on my list. The next one is this one. I have my list beside me. I did the same mistake again, trying to find the picture. Okay, so this is the book. Battle Royale by Kushon Takami. I have no idea how to pronounce that. So this is like this is the origin of all stories like this. I think this was like the first one written like this. So this is in this book we follow a class of students. And they I'm just gonna go through this very shortly. So they end up on this island, and only one can survive. With them, they have a bag with some food and water and a weapon. Everyone gets a weapon. And the weapon can be everything from, I think one had just a rope, and another one had like the worst machine gun you can ever see. So I thought my partner was coming home, but it wasn't. I think it was a neighbor just going in the hallway. So yeah, so it's like last man standing, and we follow the relationships between them and how they manage the whole scenario, and you follow them from day one on the bus. They're just going on a field trip, and then boom, they are all sedated and they end up on this island. And after every chapter it says X students remaining, like X number of students remaining. And I actually had like a mind map of all of this. I was so invested. I wrote all of the students' names, and I wrote them in the order they appeared, and then another list of the order they died, until the last one had like won the game. And what I really enjoyed about it was that you got to know the characters deep, like even though it was short, like each paragraph when you got to know them was short, the author managed to really make me feel for almost each and every one of them in some way. The author gave the readers a reason to like them or dislike them, so you got to know their like the core of the character before they died. And it was just brutal. It was brutal, and it's still living rent free in my mind. And this is a book I find myself recommending to people. And I think there's a manga version as well. I'm not sure, but I think there is. I'm not into manga, but I think there's a manga version also. So yeah, this is living rent free in my mind. And I come back to, I don't really know why. I just relived this. But I don't relive the bad stuff. It's like I'm usually not a gore kind of guy. I can't read gore. I can't read too much of like splatter you know, like blood everywhere kind of stuff. But this was brutal, but it's still, and it made me feel for each and every one of them when they died, but it didn't consume me in a negative way. So yeah. And then we have the next one, which is so this is also a symbol of this series, The Chronicles of Alice, which contains, I think, 3 or 5 books. I have read 2 so far. So I started with reading Alice because I wanted to know if I did enjoy retellings of like fairy tale or like stories. So and yeah, I really enjoyed this. Um, and it feels weird to say I enjoyed it because it was so much. It was like a bloodbath. The whole book was a bloodbath. But it was interesting to follow like another perspective of what happened to Alice. And we actually in this book we follow Alice after all of the Alice in Wonderland, Alice in Through the Looking Glass, kind of like the, I'm thinking the Disney version of it. After all of that happened, she ended up in an insane asylum. And then in this book, we follow her on in the insane asylum when she's been there for like a decade, and then when she gets out of there, and the story continues. So I read this one, and I've read The Red Queen, and I enjoyed the first book more than the second book. I still have to read Through the Looking Glass, and I I have another retelling by the same author on my shelf for January. That is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, but I don't think it's a part of these chronicles. I don't remember. I don't think so. So, but these are living in my head rent free. I don't know if they will continue to do that when I have read them all. I'm not sure. But I do own Alice, and I want to reread Alice next October. It's a good October book. It's mwah for October. I'm just saying. So yeah, The Chronicles of Alice, I really recommend. And then the second to last, I think, is this one. So this is actually a book that I borrowed because I wanted to read a Kazuo Ishiguro book, and I borrowed this as a library. And then I started reading it and realized I had already read it a long time ago. I read this. I feel like I read it in school, but I can't have because it came out after I finished school. So I don't think I read it for school, but I did read it like when it came out, maybe, or maybe I read it before it won the Nobel Prize. Maybe. Like around 2017, somewhere there. I might have done that. And this is one of those books that I enjoy. I really enjoy dystopias. Like dystopia set in the current time. So I think this book is set, I don't know if it's set in the 90s or if it's set earlier or in the 2000s, I don't know, but it feels contemporary. And I really enjoy contemporary dystopias. So they are set in the current time, and it's just like an alternative reality. Like the more plausible it feels, the better the book for me. And so it's not it a dystopia for me is has to be either clearly sci-fi or clearly not. And this is clearly not. It's just a different reality, but it's very it's like, what would happen if we could clone people? If we could clone people and use their parts for medicine. That's kind of the plot of the book. So in this book we follow young people, like teenagers, in like a school setting, but they've actually lived there all their lives, and they know that they have an original living out there, that they are clones. So they are clones living in this school environment, going to school, God knows why, going to school, forming relationships, but they know that they have no future because they know that when they leave the school, they are gonna work for some time as nurses for other, they are donors essentially. Their life mission is to be donors for their originals. So they know that when they finish school, they have two options. The first one that most people do is to be the nurse for other donors for a set amount of time, like 1 year or 2 years. And in the case of the main character, she goes on to do this for several years because she's good at it. She's very empathetic or empathic, and I don't think her original needs her, maybe. And she dreams of an ordinary life, and her dream is basically having an office job. Like it's adorable, but it's tragic and adorable. So the second option is to become donors right away. So in some cases she is taking care of, as a nurse, she's taking care of her classmates. And there are these rumors that goes around the school that if you are in love, you can get postponed. You can get to just have like an ordinary life for a little while and be in love. If you can show that you are in love for real, you will have everything postponed for a while. There's no logic in it, but it's just their dream. They dream of just being ordinary people, and it's humbling. It's humbling. And I know this by heart. I have only read it twice in my life, and I could retell the story from beginning to end because it just grabbed me so hard. And I understand why it got the Nobel Prize. I really do. So even it's the only reread I put on this list, and it's because it was so long ago that I read it the first time. It felt like I was reading it for the first time, in a way. So yeah, I like dystopia kind of books. I have another dystopia on my shelf that I just bought recently. I read it this year again. It was a while back. I actually owned it a while back, and then I don't know why I unhauled it. And now I found it again. It was really hard to find, so I'm gonna read that this year, and I will let you know about that. So, but I really enjoy dystopias. So the last book is a series as well, mostly series on this list. So this is the Dream Harbor series. And I read them in the order of the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore first, then the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and then the Christmas Tree Farm. But the original order of them, so the first book is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and then comes the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and then comes the Christmas Tree Farm. So I kind of switched up the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, read them in the other order. So I started off with the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. And then I read, but I did have an issue with the female main character. And then I read the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I enjoyed that much more than the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. And then I read the Christmas Tree Farm, and that's my favorite. So these are living rent-free in my mind because they are like these. They're cozy. They are all set in settings, atmospheres that I enjoy reading about, like a bookstore, a cafe, and then a tree farm, a small business. And there are lots of dogs and cats in this series, and that's always cute and wonderful. And it kind of adds to the characters when they love dogs or cats, don't you think? Like if a character loves a dog or a cat, you know it's going to be a good story. So these are living rent-free in my mind mainly because of the smut. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna end this long vlog, on that fact. Because I don't see myself as loving smut. I'm one of those people that kind of skim through the most of the smut in the stories unless it's tasteful. I sound so old and old fashioned when I say that, but these books really did it for me. At least Pumpkin Spice Cafe and the Christmas Tree Farm. Those are my main two. The funny thing is that I own the Cinnamon Bun bookstore, but I don't own the other ones, and the other ones were my favorites. So I want all of these, and I want to reread them every year during the fall season. So I will probably read them in that order as well, because in Sweden we have the Cinnamon Bun Day in October, the 4th of October, I think, is the Cinnamon Bun Day. Please don't quote me on that. It could be the 14th. I think it's the 4th. So that's why I bought it, because I really wanted to read it for that. And then after that, in November, it's like the pumpkin spice season, and then the Christmas season in December. So that's the order I'm gonna read them in, because that makes sense for me. And I don't think that there's so much standalone that the only thing is that when I read the Cinnamon Bun bookstore, I was kind of sad to know to see the couple from the Pumpkin Spice Cafe book and how they lived, and I was like, oh, this. I felt like it spoiled the Pumpkin Spice Cafe before I even read it, but when I read this Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I didn't feel spoiled. That not me. The book didn't feel spoiled. I realized that it didn't matter. So I'm still gonna read them in that order. I know, and I don't think I'm gonna annotate them, because these are books I wanna immerse myself in a way where I don't wanna stop and highlight or tab too much. But I did tab the last book so much. I tabbed the Christmas Tree Farm so much, and I was so sad that I couldn't buy it, and I had to remove all the tabs before returning it to the library. Because of what I want to do when I feel like I want to tab every 10th page is I want to buy the book, and I want to just transfer all the tabs from one book to the other, and then be like, yeah. So I'm kind of sad about that, actually. But yeah, what you gonna do? So that's my list. 1, 2, no. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 books or series that lives rent-free in my mind. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you hated any of these, if you loved them as much as I did, if you love them for the same reason, if maybe my reason is the same that made you hate them. So yeah, if you just let me know, So to recap, the Crowns of Nyaxia duology, loved the universe of that. They made me love vampires. Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, just adorable. The Lighthouse Bookshop, you just gotta love a Lighthouse Bookshop. Thursday Murder Club, adorable, sweet. I'm still laughing at Joyce. I'm just saying. Floating Hotel, I want to live on the Aviona Hotel. That's the only reason. Bridgerton books, no notes. Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust. Cozy fantasy for the win. just I want to be in them, and I want to tell them my troubles, and I want a cinnamon bun and a good book from the bookshop, and I just want to be there, And then I don't remember the fingers anymore. And then the Scholarman series. As I said, if an author can make me dream about the magic system, then they have really made sense for me. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, such a wonderful, wonderful, amazing, funny way to just put characters from different books and universes together in one, and the author just made it work. And I want to know more. I want to know it all. I want to see it all. I want to read it all. Battle Royale. I'm still thinking of all the deaths. And it just made such an impact on me. The whole what would people do if they had to survive and at the cost of other people's lives. The Chronicles of Alice. I do love me a good retelling. I do. I really do. Never Let Me Go. Dystopias. I don't know why they touch me so much. It just makes me feel. It just puts like a spotlight on different. Like how would humans work if the world looked like this? That kind of thing. Like putting a spotlight on our coping skills or something like that. The Dream Harbor series. I'm not much for a smut, but this worked for me. Yeah. I know it's like the men are written by women, and they are not believable in that sense, but one can dream, yeah. And I do actually enjoy a grumpy slash sunshine, because the last book was grumpy girl, sunshiny man, and it worked. Yeah. So that's the tell all for today, and I will see you in my next video. Maybe I will talk about my I don't know what I'm gonna talk about in the next video. We'll see. Maybe it will be a reading vlog, or maybe it will be something else. Let me know which books are living rent free in your mind from 2024. Let me know in the comments. I will see you next time. Tjingeling!